something happening between CPU and memory. So memory is accessible to CPU but not to me. I am the user, so I should have, how many locations are there? 65,536. Of them, last 4 locations are made accessible to me. So when microprocessor performs the instruction LDA FFFF, means what? When microprocessor performs the instruction LDA FFFF, so whatever I put, I can put some switches. That data can come from some sensors on a conveyor belt. Anything can happen now. So whatever is put by me is read by microprocessor, and that when it LDA FFFF, then in that it will increment A accumulator, and then it will have store accumulated FFFD. So whatever is here I give, and we increment it by 1 and store it here. So these are called as ports. In fact, now memory and IO ports are not for you. There is no need to separate them out. So those who might have studied something in 12th will have some confusion. But wipe out that and listen very carefully. What is IO port? IO port is that memory input port. Input port is that memory location, data for which user can give using switches. What is output port? Output port is that memory location, data from which is accessible to the user, and user can connect LEDs or can drive some appliances using that. So input port and output port are not different than memory locations, but these are those memory locations which are accessible to the user with the help of pins. So one input port is that single memory location for which all 8 pins, pin number 7 to pin number 0 are available to the user physically outside. So memory is this much. All other locations, ports lines are not coming, but for these 4 locations 32 lines are coming. So when such IO lines are made available, in that then now there is in fact some input come output line, but right now that is not important for us. So when at least means at least one input port and one output port must be there, so as to have microprocessor useful to me. So as to have a great philosopher like me useful to you, I should be able to talk and I should be able to listen. So unless talking and listening is not there, if I am only thinking and dreaming in front of you, you are unable to understand my actions. So if CPU and memory is there, in that case, whatever is going on is not known to me. So ultimately now I rub out, and then I will tell you what is Arduino. So this is 8085 YouTube. So now, because of advancements in VLSI technology, designing a processor is very simple task now, which we can have some contest. So ultimately, what is a microprocessor based system, which Arduino is? Microprocessor based system. It includes CPU, it includes memory, and few pins are available outside, ports. Sometimes that this memory and CPU can be in a single chip, then it becomes microcontroller. There was one era when 8051 based things, 8051 based systems were there. It is having ports, 32 port lines were available, or some not bidirectional. Right now input output is not so important, so port 0, port 1, then so this includes CPU plus memory. In this case, CPU and memory, few lines. So ultimately what comes is some pins should come out which should be accessible to the user. User should be able to supply data to these pins. User should be able to get data on these pins. Then there is CPU, there is memory. CPU contains some internal registers, CPU contains program counter, CPU contains instruction decoder and some temporary registers. So the microprocessor logic I have explained to you. Then there can be design of a microprocessor. Microprocessor can be made to read the instructions from the memory, execute them, go for next instruction. So all that assembly language, which was a very famous thing in last few decades of last century, is now becoming irrelevant because many designers come up with assembly language and they give you a utility through C programming or through some specific. Now that C programming was also having some specialty, but now that has also become generalized. So some kind of directly programming using logical way. So by defining some variables, so there is no need for me to understand the operation code and detailed assembly language of any microprocessor. So that is not expected. Means you cannot, once you design a microprocessor, you do not expect the world to learn that. You provide some kind of interface in some simple logical way with which you should be able to drive the thing. So read, so port 1 input pins are there, you read that, read port 1. Means the syntax should be simpler, a simple English language. What is the biggest difference between earlier microprocessor, microcontroller based things and now is that we have got rid of assembly or even there was a cross C compile, that is also gone. Simple English. What you want? You want to have a timer. Means read something, when that goes 1, after some time controls makes, means in the next lecture I will explain you the exact application of the things using Arduino, but the contents are very simple. The way in which the instructions are to be supplied are very simple. Read, write, move. So simple English words without any kind of requirement to have domain specific assembly language, and converting from that into actual assembly language, putting it that program inside the EEPROM and making microprocessor to work to execute that. All these things happen without my knowledge. Means there is something, means it is just like a servant. So what you tell? You tell the servant that prepare food for me. You have given some menu, prepare rice for me. Then whether you need to tell, no, now you take actual raw rice, put water, you put the electrical appliances or the gas on, now you put it there, wait for 10 minutes, all these things, prepare rice for me to eat. So everything else he does. So same is like in Arduino. I think I tried to move somewhat rapidly because we can't have infinite time. For today it is enough. Thank you.